Hi, I'm YouTuber Andrew now. Welcome to Where Are All My Friends? No, I'm kidding. But I was thinking about this. Am I kidding? Maybe I am a YouTuber. I guess I'm recording this intro. I was thinking about it, and the podcast is mainly on Apple and Spotify. It's mostly audio, but I really do want to grow the YouTube. And before you click and listen to a 45-minute, hour-long video, you probably want to know about it. So this week's episode is with my new friend NOVUL. She is a pop artist originally from Canada, now lives in LA, and I was really interested in her story because she has such a vision for the branding of everything, but only has 3 songs out. So I wanted to hear about that. I wanted to see how she got to where she's at now. I kind of felt like there was more to her story, and there definitely was. We get into how she's promoted the project as an independent artist. She shares some really cool tips there, which I'm always obsessed with talking about. So if you're interested in something like that, I think you'll enjoy this episode. If you do, if you've just found the channel, if you've been listening for a while, whatever, if you're down to subscribe, I'm really trying to grow the YouTube and it helps a ton. So tell your friends about it and hit subscribe wherever the button is. That's it. Enjoy. Where are all my friends? We're back again. And this one's kind of fun because I was just explaining this right before we started recording, but I love doing podcasts with people that I barely know. And I just feel like you get these very organic stories and it's such a fun, real conversation. So this is a fun one. I think, how did we even meet? It was through your team. Like your team hit me up about the podcast and I was
Okay.
like, yo, this is sick. Let's do this. So
Yeah.
this is great. I'm so excited to hear your
Thank
story.
you for having me. My name is Novel. So yeah, I'm super excited to talk to you and yeah.
Yeah, this will be cool. And where I really like to start, like the whole idea for me is I saw your project and it seemed like anytime, I don't really care where an artist is in their career, but it just seems like if you have a vision, if you're doing something cool, if there's something unique there, I'm like, I want to hear about that.
Mm.
And what instantly stood out to me was like you very clearly defined your brand, which is something that's really, I think, important in this day and age.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you for noticing that. I'm actually a visual artist. Anyone that I've worked with can tell you that I'll be like in the studio right down as soon as I start songwriting or an idea. I already have like the music video pictured. Like I'm very hands on. I do all my styling. I do my makeup.
really?
Yeah, I do everything. I'm a very hands on because in the end, it's like this is me, and this is like
Yeah.
what how I want to interpret it or like how I want to vision. So yeah, I'm a very hands-on artist. And everything that I've written about or done, it's like a chapter of my life, my story.
That's cool. All right. Well, I definitely want to hear more about that because to me, like, just I kind of like try not to do too much homework because I want to like hear these things naturally. But that stood out to me of just like, all right, cool. Like, even with only 3 songs out, it's very clearly defined. And I love that.
Thank you.
And then the other thing that stood out is that you fuck with TikTok. And anybody that fucks with
Yes.
TikTok is a friend of mine.
Yes, I love the TikTok world has been amazing. My 2 recent songs that I dropped, Like Us and Sticky, all together has combined like 4.5, almost 5 million views altogether, which is awesome as an independent artist.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really cool to have some, bigger influencers behind it. Kylie from like Disney was supporting it. The Pittman sisters, these beautiful triplet girls that supported all my tracks right down to the dance mom world.
Yeah.
So yeah, having that was like amazing, support in the other side of like entertainers, you know what I mean, with the
Yeah.
influencers
Well,
and combining my music with their world.
yeah. Well, no, I love that. And I had I don't know if you know Ty Verdes, but he's another artist that's independent and like poppin'. And a huge thing, like he has 1 song out, Stuck in the Middle, maybe just now too.
Mhm.
But we had this incredible conversation about just like how he correctly used TikTok, not in a cheesy way, but like had fun with it, but told his story and like took the time to really learn the platform.
Mhm.
And the song blew up. So anybody like I'm all for embracing the future. And I know, like, at least for me, like, I'll look at it and sometimes I'm like, I am too old. I should not be here.
No,
But I
there's
think
no
that,
age. I think it's Yeah, and it's interesting. You never know like how what's gonna take off, what's not. I mean, my songs are definitely still growing. I'm still like pretty independent and like new upcoming artist. So it's cool just to like, share your art on a different platform, and TikTok
Yeah.
is popping right now. So it's really cool to have like that TikTok kind of world, see hear your sound and be like, this would be great for, our platform. And it's like, that's cool. And
Yeah.
that's like what I wanted. This new music is very fun, sassy, confident. So I think it was just works perfect for the little TikTok world.
That's such a good way to put it. And like you saying that you're so visual, I would imagine that when you write a song or like, I would imagine that it's pretty easy for you to be like, oh, wait, I could do this or this or this, or like the ideas for TikToks, because you can tell when somebody's there because they like have to be, or because their team is like, you need to be doing this. Or it's like, yo, this person's having fun with it.
Yeah.
And I like saw that and I was like, all right, I see you.
Thank you.
So that's cool. Well, all right. So let's do typically the format that I like to do is I like to take it back to the earlier days of you, I guess, finding music, wherever that was in your life, but finding that moment where you're like, you know what, like this is what I want to do. This is the path. Or maybe it didn't start like that, but whatever that is.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm from a really small town in Saskatchewan, Canada called Paradise Hill, a town of like 495 people, very like farmer prairie ranch town. And I always knew I wanted to do something in the entertainment business. So my parents put me in dance at age 3, and I was competitively dancing in ballet, tap, jazz, lyrical, hip hop, like at age 5. And then from there I started doing some musical theater. But yeah, in my town there's no arts really. It's like bigger cities like Toronto
Yeah.
where you have to fly. And
What's a dance class like
yeah,
there? Like, is there is
yeah,
like
I
a bunch of
mean,
are you like in a farm and they're like, here, we'll teach you?
no, we're doing the timber by cash. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, no, it's like, I mean, I had to go to like the bigger city, so I had to drive like an
Got it.
hour every day to,
Wow.
go to do dance. And so I actually, it was my brother's hockey team. They were looking for a national anthem singer, and I was 10 years old, and I was like, I'll do it. And my mom at the time was like, "Oh, I don't know, can she sing?" Like nobody even knew. And so my grandma is like a very like high spokesman woman. She'll tell you if you're good or not good. And so my parents, we all had grandma over for dinner, and then we're like, Sammy wants to sing. And so I sang, and she's like, I think she's got some pipes. And so from there, I became, singing for my brother's hockey team. And from there, I auditioned for the national NHL hockey team for the Edmonton Oilers. And I became their anthem singer for like 18,000 people. So from there,
This is so
I
Canadian right
know,
now.
very
Your
Canadian.
come up in music is the national anthem
Yeah,
in the hockey games.
right.
I love this.
Thanks. And then there's like this really big thing in this big city, like 3 hours away, called Telemiracle. And basically, it's a huge foundation that major artists come in. You raise money for cancer, and they bring in a ton of like huge artists for entertainment. And you call in, you donate money. And so they had an audition to have like some locals. So all people were flying in auditioning, and I ended up getting the role. And I sang Suds in the Bucket. It was my first live television performance. And then they asked me to come sing for their breakfast for all the major artists. And so I went and I sang this cover, Beautiful by Christina Aguilera. And I had like a
Tight.
really big
Yes.
voice for such a little girl. And all these artists were coming up to my parents and were like, if she really likes doing music and entertainment, I feel like you guys should, help pursue this dream of hers. So from there, I ended up flying to Toronto, which is like a 5.5 hour flight, like once a
Wow.
month, and like vocally training and like getting more into it. And then once I graduated high school, I moved to Los Angeles, and that's how I started my career.
So like you've been in it. Like this is like a pretty early age where you're like, this is it. I'm doing
Yeah. I
this.
think it's just like I've been doing it a long time, but like now I'm like really found my sound. I've like, before I was like kind of like, finding my voice, learning the training, dancing. I'm like when I perform, I have like full on dancers, like it's a show.
Wow.
So I'm like a different artist in that sense. Like I'm an entertainer. Like I love putting on a huge show. I have a very big creative mind. And so yeah, so I got in the studio with Poet Named Life of the Black Eyed Peas, and that's where I cut my very first single. They were the one that actually gave me my artist name Novel, because my last name was Novlin, and I'm from a really small town, and I'm a
Yeah.
songwriter, and they're like, "You're quite the story," so they kept calling me Novel. So
Oh,
everyone's
that's
like, "No, it's
cool.
Novel," and they're like, "You're like a mini little Fergie," and so that's how I got my artist name, Novel.
Damn, that's sick. And I feel like that's literally the most generic interview question ever. So hopefully we can cover that on this podcast. This podcast pops off enough, and you never have to go through that very beginner, how'd you get your name
I
artist
know.
question. But that is
It's
cool. That's
interesting.
really
It's a
cool.
really cool story. So I love sharing that.
No, that's awesome. So something that you said that I'm curious of
Mhm.
is having been in this for so long, and now, like, when I look at every profile that you have on social media, again, it's very intentional. You have the brand figured out, and you only have 3 songs out on Spotify.
Mhm.
But I've also talked to a lot of friends that it took them some amount of time of finding themselves and kind of perfecting the craft, and they'll kinda do like they'll wash it clean and, like, start fresh. Was this a one of those? Like, I would have to imagine you've done a ton of other stuff
Yeah,
since then.
I actually have, like, when I first started, my first single was, like, more very EDM. My first single was called Spark, and I actually spelt my name Novel. And
Mm.
I released it, and it went number 16 on Billboard Dance charts. So I've had
Oh,
previous work. Just this year, I ended up like taking down all my older stuff. I mean, like last year, I had a single, "Boys Like You," "Amateur," all this time. Like they were on Canada radio, and I got support. But
whoa.
I took a whole year off, and I was like, I kind of like rebranded. I did like a lot of self work on myself, and I was like, I think I truly found my sound now. Before the stuff I did was very more just pop or like deep house, and I have music videos for them. They're all on YouTube still, and they have awesome, views and stuff. But I decided to kind of like, really rebrand, and I took the stuff off like Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, and all those main channels. And I just started recently, as of like 4 months ago, releasing my new work. So I have been doing
Interesting.
this for a minute.
See, and that's cool to me. One, it's an honor. I'm glad that I get to do the pod with you now in, like, the new wave of it, only 4 months in. That's awesome.
And I
But,
love, like, sharing that because, like, I feel like a lot of artists, I mean, fans, like, think, like, "Where did this girl come from? She's got 1 single and she's, like, blowing up," and, like, little do they know they've actually had other work out and they probably, like, swiped it or, like, I know there's, like, Billie Eilish videos of her, like, that they've swiped, or Ava Max, like, there's a ton of, like, artists that, like, people just be like, "Where did she come from?" But then there's fans that have been like, "I've been with them for like 8 years or
yep.
5 years," and those are like the original OG fans. And so, I mean, if you really do research, and I don't want people believing there's just like people just come out of nowhere, like, there's definitely like a machine behind people. There's definitely a team. It's like it's a business.
Well,
So
I'm so glad that you brought that up and said it that way, because I think that there's 2 sides of it. Is like, I think that honesty is really important, and you don't wanna just, like, front like, "Oh, I'm the shit out of nowhere."
mhm.
But it's also important to learn how to brand things, and that can be part of it, to realize, like, to learn to grow and then to almost hit reset and do it better. So I'm always curious of that, and that's a story or a lesson that I like to hear from different people's perspectives, because I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that it's really cool, and I think that some artists, depending on the circumstance, might have had a chance and missed it because they were so stuck in their old ways or their old branding, and they didn't have that honest feedback or that honest conversation with themselves where it's like, I have what it takes, but I need to learn the marketing and the branding and make this
Totally.
feel fresh.
I mean, in the end, that's like the main thing. And I think I just have recently like really learned that over the years. Like before I release a single and then like wait 6 months, 8 months, then release a single. And I was so focused on that single. And like this year, I've been like dropping a single like every like 4 weeks or 6 weeks. And because in the end, you don't know which one is people are going to really like.
Yeah.
What you think could be totally opposite of like all of a sudden what pops off. So I've just been like, okay, I just need to really start releasing my music. I mean, I have a ton of songs that I now will never get to release because I was just holding off. And so now I'm like, all last year I wrote a whole album's worth of music and I'm starting to drop singles from the album and I'm just going to keep creating and I just got to know that like, I'm just going to keep releasing and everything's a new chapter, a new story and I'm growing as well with my music with my fans. So it's like a journey. It really is a journey.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm so that's exactly what this podcast is about, is, like, learning and hearing that journey,
Mhm.
and I don't know, it's cool, it's really cool. I didn't expect that that was part of your story, and the way that you put that is awesome, but I, um, I like sharing that perspective because I think there could be people listening to this that maybe have a project
Mhm.
and they really believe in themselves and they're not gonna stop anytime soon, but, like, now, like, I look like this is the perfect example, is I didn't know who you were. I saw it through the internet and it looked like this new fresh thing, and you clearly had a following and you clearly had a brand, but it like almost was more appealing because it was only like, "Oh, 3 songs out. Like, who's she? Like, who's this new poppin' artist?"
Oh, well, good.
And I don't think there's anything like, I think that's awesome. Like, I think it's smart when
Thank you.
people can do that,
Mm,
but then they back it with, like, talent. They're like, "Oh, cool. Yeah, I've been doing this. Like, this is intentional." I think
mm.
it's cool.
Thank you.
So,
Well, yeah,
yeah.
I'm finally like, really getting good support. Like my new music video I just dropped within like 3 weeks ago and it's already almost got like 400,000 streams, which is crazy as an independent artist. And,
Yeah.
my songs are, growing on Spotify and, so I call my fans my novelties. So they've been awesome support system.
Damn, that's cool. So, okay, I wanna get to that exact point, but before we do, tell me, so you moved to LA when you pretty much finished school and moved to LA, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. So, that's a decent amount of time. You said you've been in LA, I don't remember if we said this before we started recording. You said you've been in LA for about 7 years or
Yeah, for
so?
about 7 years. I was, like, traveling back and forth from Canada to here, Canada, back and forth, but, yeah, I've been here for about 7 years.
What was the early like, what was your first impression of getting to LA? You're like wide-eyed, like, "I'm coming to LA, I'm gonna do the thing." Like, what was that? What did your early time in LA look like?
I honestly think the biggest shock, I think, would be more when I go back to me going to Toronto because
Okay.
it's a bigger city like LA, and I remember my first time, like, going there and be like, "Whoa," and I remember I came upon my very first LGBT gay parade and I'd never
Oh,
seen that before, and that was an eye-opening, and I just fell in love. I was like, people are dancing, there's joy, and that was, like, a big eye-opening. I was, like, 12 years old, like,
yeah.
13, 12. And so I think that was, like, kind of a more shock. I think I just always knew, like, people even back home would be like, "You never really belonged here." Like, I always knew that no matter what, like, I was gonna, be comfortable and luckily my mom's American. She's from Sacramento. And
Oh,
so I have dual citizenship. So I was traveling like a lot, coming to LA and back and forth. So I also have like awesome family support. Like, my parents would travel with me or my mom would come. So I was always like very comfortable. But I just knew I wanted to be here. So I was just very open minded and excited.
yeah. So then was your first exposure to a big city, like, that was just another moment where you're like, "Oh, cool, yeah, I found it. This is it. Here, I'm in the right place."
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't know. I haven't really people always ask me that because, it's such a shock small town, but I honestly felt very comfortable coming here. I feel like I just maybe in a past life I lived in a big city, I don't know. But I love where I grew up. I love, my dream is to have a farm and like have animals and be successful in my career and Like I want pigs, goats, cows. Like I love all that stuff. I want to have a massive garden one day. And so I'm still very like humble and, stick to my roots. But yeah, I guess it was like a big shock. Like the freeways are a lot bigger and a lot busier than we have 2 laners back home. And here it's like 6 lanes. So it
Oh
was a
yeah,
little bit to get
it'd
used
be
to.
going crazy. But what about like the artist project and like meeting people? Like did you already have an idea of who you were gonna work with, or did you get out here and just be like, "All right, now what?"
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been times in the process, like my first time was getting in the studio with Poet, and then I met like Will
Mhm.
I Am and Apple, and Will
Yeah,
came
because
to a
that's
couple of my
crazy.
yeah, Will came to a couple of my shows, and I've LA's like honestly like very small like entertainment world. Like as soon you kind of start meeting people, and then you start working with this producer, that producer, but um yeah, it's like you never know who you're going to run across or who you're going to work with, but I've been working with awesome talented, songwriters, producers, and yeah, it's just been a journey, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's just I have so many friends that have come out and it's like you kinda have to like stumble a little bit until you find your people and you really like meet those ride or dies. So
Mhm.
the fact that you were able to work with the people that you just listed so early on is so damn cool.
Yeah, it is cool, but I definitely have worked with a couple sharks, they call them. Like, I haven't had, like, the best experience. Like, I've definitely had ups and downs. I've like definitely had people that, say they would do this or that. And like, I've been times where like, I'm like, am I really supposed to be doing this? I get frustrated sometimes, like, but then people will like, my fans would like message me and be like, wow, this song like helped me. And I'm like, wow, this is
Yeah.
why I do music. And this is why I want to connect with people. I love people. And like, I'm not the great at expressing my emotions. I guess that's why I'm a songwriter. So, um, it's just having seen people like, message me about my songs. I'm like, wow, okay, this is what keeps me motivated. This is what, helps me, just like I look at other artists where I'm like, wow, that song made me feel better. Or that song made me feel hype.
Yeah.
I love that other artists or people, see my music and view that the same way.
Yeah, totally. That's something that I think everybody has their own ways of like everyone's felt it and everybody deals with differently, but
Mm.
no matter how successful you ever get, just that feeling of like is this worth it? Like am I really going to make it kind of thing? And like the little bits of encouragement that you can find along the way are like life-changing. It's
Yes,
crazy.
100%. I agree.
Yeah. Okay, so you got to LA a little while ago, chasing the artist project, had a whole different sound, and then as of very recently changed it up, changed the name, changed the spelling, name stays the same.
Mhm.
And then was the branding all like was that a whole new wave like were you straight like clean slate, everything started again kind of thing?
Not so much like visually, because if you look at even like my past work, like I'm very theatrical artist. So I don't think like visually. I think just more like sound wise. And I think that just since I've grown as a woman and like with being around myself and getting more comfortable with knowing what I want in my art, it's kind of like painters, the more you paint, you start finding your own style. And I feel like it was like that with my music. And a couple years like maybe like a couple years ago I was in a moment where I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna go. Like, I don't know what producer I should work with. Net, I was kind of like at a standstill, and I was like
Yeah.
looking for new like management. And there was this big artist I really loved. Her name is DeLacy, and she's a major songwriter. She wrote for Halsey, Without You. Like, she's a really big songwriter, and she started releasing some of her own work independently. And I was just like sitting in a cafe, and I was like, I wonder who manages her. So I did like all this research, and I met this guy. I sent out literally like probably 30, 40 emails,
No
and
way.
instantly
Just
within
looking for like the
just
proper
yeah,
team.
just like looking for the proper, I think I was ready for the next level of like
Yeah.
what I wanted to be, taken as an artist, like the more seriously and stuff. So within 15 minutes, this guy got back to me. His name's Gary Bowen. He's an A&R, and he's worked with everyone in the industry. He's like Ellie Reed's right hand man. And he was just like, wow. I sent him like, my past work with my visuals and stuff. And he's like, wow, I want to meet with you. I'm in town. So we went and he met, and I'm like a poet. I write poetry, and I read him some of my poetry, and he was just like, wow, I would love, to get you in the studio with this guy, Dave Berg. And so from there, he's like, test it out, see what, guys come up with. And I was like, I think I want to do more, bring back like the 2000s vibes. Like my
Yeah.
personality is very fun. I'm very sassy. I'm confident. And I was like, I just got out of a crazy relationship. I was like, I want to stop writing sad songs. I want to be feeling myself. I want to bring back like the horns, like the funness. And so he's like, okay, go in the studio. And so I went in the studio and I wrote my first single with Dave called Coattails, which I haven't released yet. I think it's going to be my next single. And it
Okay.
incorporates like a lot of trumpets, horns, and I think my new styles is like kind of bringing back that Gwen Stefani, Fergie, I've been told vibes, and they're awesome, women anthems. Like
That's
they're
so much it. Like you
exactly,
just
yeah,
put that so well. Like you listen to it and you're like, yeah, like it's got like it's fun and it's
yeah,
powerful. And you're just
fun.
like,
Yeah, and I
yeah.
was like, I just want music where people put it on, they feel good. It's very high energy, my new stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, totally. So that was a big point. Like when you got like the proper manager, proper producer in that round of it, it was like, okay, this is clicking. You felt that vibe, you felt that energy, and it was like, let's go kind of
Yeah,
thing.
let's go. And I'm still independent. So, I mean, every day I'm still waking up and being like, okay, what can I do differently for this single that worked, or what didn't work for the previous single? So, like, I'm still like learning, as I'm always testing, A&Rs do that with people that are signed, like, let's
Yep.
try more of this, or let's try doing this, or let's target this. So it's kind of like a game, business
Yeah.
game, and I feel like that's the business side of it, and I'm learning more and more about the business side of it,
Do
and
you
the
like
marketing
that side
side.
of it? Because, like, obviously you say, like, you're very visual, like, you see it. You write a
Uh,
song, you know the video, you know what it looks like, all of that, and I'm so
mhm.
curious because I would say that I'm probably the exact opposite of you, where I'm like, I couldn't write a song to save my life. I like, I'll see things like I recognize an aesthetic or a vision,
Mhm,
and I definitely like photography, whatever, but I'm business guy.
mhm.
Like, this podcast is me talking to people about how things work and the behind the scenes and that. Like, I am so far the opposite of like, let's put on a production and that. Like, so do you see both of those sides or you like miss me with that
I mean, I
business?
feel like I have to because I am my own like boss technically, but I honestly love like creating, of course, way more than like knowing how to like market and releases. Like the business side of it is kind of like, oh, the tricky part, it's like, why can't I just do this art like this or that, which I can independently. I can do,
Yeah.
I don't have like a label being like, no, you can't do that. Blessings with that. But yeah, it's like learning each day, learning each release, getting guidance from like other artists, or even guidance from like, my A&R and like
Yeah.
stuff like that. But I'm definitely like learning to really love it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm always curious of that because there's like some of my artist friends are like in it, like business, and like they always are in it. And then others are just like, miss me with all of that. I'm trying to make music.
Yeah.
I don't
Which is
care. Get
funny.
me a
Even
team as fast as you
if
can.
you probably looked at my social media, you probably think like, oh, I love social media. But I honestly like, it's not my favorite.
Really?
Yeah. Like I'm not a huge like, I mean, I love Instagram. I love like, expressing my art and stuff, but I definitely need to be like more active with probably my Instagram, like going on more lives and stuff. I'm more like to just focus, like go in the studio or like shoot and, do visuals and like then release it. I'm not huge on like trying to post every day, even though, I try to very stay interactive with my fans, but yeah,
That's hard. I think a lot
really
of us are
hard.
struggling with that right now. Like,
It's a
I
job.
don't,
Instagram is a
yeah.
job.
I don't know, like, in all honesty, I don't know in the last however many months if I have talked to any friend in or outside of music that's been like, "You know what I'm stoked to do right now is post on Instagram." Like, it feels like it's like a chore, a job that we've all agreed that we have to do, but we're
Yeah.
all just stuck in this cycle of pretending.
Well, I
Like, it's
think too,
so weird.
if you're like an influencer or like, in music or like you're using Instagram as like a business profile in a way, not just like, posting to, your family, your friends or whatever, like
Yeah.
it's definitely like a job. And then you start, guessing your posts, like this post did better than this post, or like what could I get my fans, and like checking your back DMs and trying to like catch up to like everyone and trying to comment back to everyone. Like it's definitely like I try to like either right away in the morning or like at night when I'm laying in bed, like try to go back and respond to everyone as much as possible. Because of course, like I love to connect with people. So Instagram's a great platform
Yeah.
for that as well.
That's what's so hard is like the
Mhm.
genuine part of it is amazing. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm always trying to talk to people. And if
Yeah.
anybody, like on my side, if anybody supports the podcast, oh my God, I want to talk to you and thank you and hear what you
Yeah.
liked or hear what I could do better. But then, like, I don't know what it is. Like, that part of it, so genuine, so great.
Mhm.
But then, like, just the feeling if you're not always posting, engagement is restricted, whatever, whatever, whatever. It's just stressful. It's hectic.
Yeah. I totally
What
feel that.
about TikTok though? Because my thoughts on TikTok is it's the only place that's fun on the internet. That's
Yeah.
like the one, I don't know, it
I
feels less like a job.
I'm not like I don't have a huge following on TikTok, but like I started like I guess since quarantine and that begun, I was like posting a lot of dance videos and expressing, but like I haven't really posted in a while. I kind of like, but I love TikTok. You can post like funny videos. I actually did this funny video on TikTok with my dog pretending to do like her nails, and it got like 2 million views. I feel like TikTok is so random. It's just like,
Yes,
how are you just like putting these videos in front of like other people? It's not like you're searching. So I
I
feel
know.
like TikTok is like so fun because it's like you never know where you're gonna get. It's like you're
Yep.
swiping and you're like, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, that's like, I don't know, even like there was one where you were like messing with your mom in the car or something like
Yeah.
that too, right?
Oh, yeah, my mom falls asleep all the time, or, like, I always try to scare my mom, and it it's pretty I'm a
Yeah.
jokester.
I don't know, like,
I love it.
that's the side of it that I like though, is like it's
Mhm.
cool to see like I feel like Instagram has to stay polished and it's very much like this is the brand, whatever. But then when I saw that side of you on TikTok, I was like, all right, she has fun. She gets it.
Mhm. I know, I feel like a lot
But
of people see my say my Instagram or that haven't met me, or people meet me in person and they're like, "Oh my god, you're so funny," or "You're so bubbly," and stuff, and I'm like, "Maybe I need to start smiling more in my Instagram posts. I'm doing too many selfies."
I don't know. It's funny too though, because it's like we talk about this right now. And before we were talking, I looked at all of your socials and I was like, yeah, she has it on the lock, right? So it's like so often it from afar, you're like, this is it. They've got it dialed. And then you talk to somebody and they're like, man, I don't know.
I'm
I'm
just
just trying my
learning.
best.
I'm still figuring myself out. I don't even know what I'm eating later. Like
Yeah. That's funny. I think that pretty much catches us up to where you're at now.
Mm,
And then you said, so you went in the studio. The first song you recorded isn't even out yet, and you have 3 songs currently out.
yeah,
So
my
how
first
much
one.
music is on deck? Like what's coming up next?
Well, I have a whole album. So I did like 12 songs, and
Okay.
the album's called Lullabies. So I think I'm gonna release that, of course, in the new year. So right now I'm just like releasing some of my favorite singles from the album. So far I've released 3. I'll probably be releasing like a couple more from the album, and then hopefully releasing the whole album altogether. And in the meantime, I'm still like in the studio writing and recording like new material.
Damn, so you're in it right now. You are
Yeah,
fully
yeah, I'm ready.
fully
I'm starting to
in
take
go mode.
safety sessions and with precautions and doing a lot of Zooms and yeah, so I'm really excited. I'm excited. It's awesome. I released my first single Like Us, and then
Mhm.
Sticky, and then my recently Runaway Baby, which is from
Yep.
a poem I wrote.
Oh,
Yeah, it was from a poem I wrote called I actually called it 3 a.m. cigarettes before. It was about a crazy toxic relationship I was in at the time. I literally wrote the poem within like 10 minutes with my ex, like, passed out beside me. And we ended up like breaking up, and I started performing the poem as in my opening acts. And a lot of people would
really?
come over and be like, whoa, like it was like a spoken word kind of thing, and then I'd go like right into my music, and people are like coming up with it and being like, "Wow, I really related with that poem. Like, I had no idea you were going through that," because I didn't really, publicize too much. My ex had like addiction problems. And so I kind of like really lost myself in the process of trying to, save him. There's a
Mm,
lot of ups and downs, a lot of amazing times, a lot of really bad times. And so the song is basically, the ups and downs of like a roller coaster. And then I called it Runaway Baby. So I decided, yeah, after the poem, I was like, I need to really make this into a song. So I went to the producer, Dave Berg, and we brought in another writer, Monroe, and I read them my poem, and they're like, let's do this. And we were just finishing a whole session, and I kept hearing like, "Yeah, my runaway, 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 baby," because he would always just like run away. Like I would come home and he would like be disappeared or like come back, and like I could never like really rely on him. So he was like my runaway baby. And so that's where like the hook came from. And so basically the whole poem turned into like a little rap with the new hook. And then I still wanted it up tempo, like mid tempo, because I didn't want it to be like too sappy and sad. But I was
yeah.
actually really nervous to release this song because I wasn't sure
Really?
I wasn't sure how people would, respond to it. And luckily, everyone has been like super supportive with it, being like, wow, I related with this. Um, I then decided to shoot the official music video for it, which was now it's like at almost 400,000
Okay, yeah, yeah. That's the one that you're
streams.
saying that popped
Yeah.
off.
And so I worked with Chancellor Warhol. He shot my previous music videos, amazing director. And I told him a situation that happened to me in Big Bear with my ex. And I wanted to reenact that whole situation. So we went to Big Bear. We reenacted the scene with the song. And yeah, it was very beautiful. It was kind of like it was kind of hard, shooting it, but it was like very therapeutic at the same time. And the visuals came out amazing. My current boyfriend was like super down to play my ex.
Oh, is that?
Crazy. Yeah.
That's funny.
But yeah, so it's doing awesome. And I'm just very, awesome. Feel so blessed how people are really responding to the visuals and the song and everything.
That's super cool. And with that, like as an independent artist, like that's have you done the deep dive in YouTube? Like, was this like a very like you went deep in the marketing side of it, or was that kind of just like a natural side of like it caught on there? Because I'm always so interested in that, right?
Yeah, of course. Well, I definitely like have put some like, support like ads like behind it. Like, but honestly, like
Oh, sick.
not
I think that's
not
awesome. Like,
like
that's not me being like, oh, well, that's whack. Like, I think that if you're an independent artist, you need to do everything you
yeah. Well,
possibly
honestly,
can.
that's what labels do. They put like a ton of money. You know how much everything on the radio is all like bought basically.
Yeah.
But I did literally like $5 ads, like very,
Oh
very
my God.
minimal. And
Just to like get it going.
just to get it going, like those ads that will like pop up like, hey, recommended
Yeah.
video, like similar artists or, stuff like that. So I did like a little mini ad, and now it's just like taking off. And now I'm just like, whoa, like every morning I'm waking up and be like, wow, 10,000 more views, like 10,
Yes.
even more. Like it's just crazy. I'm like, and I think it's just the visual is just really relatable. And a lot of people, I feel like what was why I wanted to really release this one third is because, my new stuff, I feel like a lot of people look at me like, I'm pretty, I'm doing music, I have a luxury life. Like they don't know, like, this is the mysterious dark side where I don't actually express and talk. And I wanted to release this because I wanted my fans to actually know the truth of like what I've actually like really been through, and like I'm just like them, and like we can relate, and like I've been in some crazy situations that I never thought I'd be in, and I came out strong, and like I wanted to be kind of like, hope and, connect with people and in like, a toxic way as well as a relationship.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I think everybody always appreciates honesty, right? Like
Yeah.
it's very this day and age, like we see the highlight reel quite a lot, but when people open up and share something a little more real, I think everyone can relate to that. And that's cool that you were down to. And I also like I love you explaining that you did like figure out how to put some ads behind the video and all that because I like to do this podcast as well. I know there's a lot of my listeners that are independent artists or maybe they're trying to help friends or whatever, just like the early come up days of music
Mhm.
and any value that I can bring to that, any other stories that I can share is like, here's an artist that found a way to have some amount of success. Here's a good idea. Here's a this, here's a that. Like, I
Yeah,
always like to bring value there. So that's cool to hear you share that and be like, yeah,
yeah.
we took the time, we wrote a song that was meaningful and genuine,
Mhm.
shot a video that again, meaningful and genuine,
Yeah.
and then did everything we could to like back that so people
Yeah,
would
I think
see
that's
it.
like the marketing side. I feel like a lot of people, I mean, hey, when I first was like 17, 18, I first released my single, I was like, it's out. And then I was like waiting and I'm like, blank, blank, like, it doesn't just happen like that. You don't just release music and voila. I mean, sometimes it happens, but there's always some backing behind it.
Yeah.
And so I feel like a lot of people don't really talk about that, but like I'm like, yeah, of course, like you have to like get like little independent like playlist support and like all that stuff, which is super hard to get. I mean, I definitely had to like, submit my songs.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, people, it's not just like you pay for anything.
I guess another thing that I like to kind of get into, and again, like I feel like there's still so much room in your career, and this is kind of like the beginning of at least this era. So I don't mean to ask this question in a way of like, you've made it, this
Oh,
is the
I know I
end. But
haven't made it. I'm still working.
no, but like, like I like to acknowledge everything that we've done, but then also it's a balance, right? Like you have to believe in yourself. You have to gas yourself up. You have to be proud of where you're at.
Mhm.
But then you also have to be chasing the next steps always,
Yeah.
no matter how far you are.
Yeah.
But a question that I think everyone can relate to and always has an answer, regardless of where you're at, is like, any point in your career, any point in your life where it's been the hardest or you've had the most self-doubt, where is that and what did you do to get past it? Like what point do you go back to in your life or your career and what got you through that?
Well, I always like there's definitely been times where I'm like coming and I feel like I get hit like with a wall of like, okay, where am I gonna go now? Like, I can totally relate. I've had many situations happen to that, but I always knew in my heart this is what I wanted to do. You have to want to do this. It's like, a job 24/7. And I feel like I always just really believed in myself. And I think that's like the really main thing is just knowing like if you truly believe in yourself, like you just got to keep going. And the other thing too is try not to like, I've learned to have too high of goals. Of course, I could be like, I want a Grammy, I want to have a world tour. But realistically, right now, that's not happening. So I was like, I want to complete an album. I want to, like, I want to drop like turn one of my poems into a song, like like little things where it's just like then you're like, ah, that felt good, like yeah, I did that. It's just like little goals because every little stepping stone is a something closer. And you may be like, thinking you want to have this as your dream, and an opportunity could come along that's totally you never even thought of, and you start having more interest in that. So I think it's just like being very open minded. But I think if you just like work at it and truly like believe in yourself, like anything is possible.
That's cool. That's really cool. Cause it's hard, right? Like, it's like sometimes that feels like the cliche advice, but I really like what you said about under like setting realistic goals, I guess, right? Like, you're
Mhm.
not gonna go on a world tour during COVID,
Yeah.
but if you really do this and if you really love this, there's always something that you can achieve. So it's like, cool,
Yeah.
I'm gonna write a whole album and I'm gonna be proud of every song. Like,
Yeah.
there's always those things that you can do. And if you love it, like, of
Yeah.
course you're gonna chase that.
Yeah, of course. And that's with anything, with anybody. Like it doesn't even have to be music related.
Yeah, that's sick. Damn. I think we did the thing.
Oh,
This
yeah.
was awesome. I'm
Yeah.
so glad to
Having
hear
so
your
fun.
story and I don't know, it's nice. It's for me to not know anything, well, relatively nothing,
Uh-huh.
and to hear all of the behind the scenes of it, it adds another element to understanding an artist, and I appreciate that, and I hope that anybody who didn't know who you were now hears your stuff and understands it a little better, and if some of your
Yes.
fans hear this, I hope they also understand your story
Yes,
a little
keep
more, you know?
streaming. No.
Yeah, yeah.
Blow me
Do
up. No.
that. Run it,
Yeah,
repeat, set
repeat.
Spotify to repeat.
No, yeah, and I so appreciate you taking the time and, that you're interested and wanting to get to know me as, an artist. That means a lot to me as well on your platform.
Oh, absolutely. I'll be following along too. I love to
Uh,
see it. Like, I love to see, I mean, I would consider this is like a new era of novels. So I'm excited to watch along now and be like, oh shit, like, just like seeing the new accomplishments and the videos and the songs come out. Like, I love
thank
it. I feel like I'm
thank
I'm in
you
it now.
for
I'm invested.
thank you for seeing that. Yeah, of course.
Yes. Well, awesome. Where the final thing is, where can people find you? If they didn't know you up until this podcast, where should they find you? Where should they
Yeah,
listen to you?
I'm on Spotify, iTunes, just type in "Novel." My new singles are out, "Like Us," "Sticky," "Runaway Baby," and I got new material dropping, so just type in "Novel" and I should pop up.
I love it. Awesome.